Cage Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a cage bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. To be able to understand the intent behind the author's writing, you need to first understand the author. Born in 1928, Maya Angelou was an author, poet, and civil rights activist, and was raised in segregated Arkansas. In her teens, she moved to San Francisco with her family, where her progressive political views began to form. In fact, here she tried to become a cable car operator, but was denied because of her race. Through her persistence and help from her mother, she was able to convince the company to give her a job, making her San Francisco's first African-American cable car operator. During the 1950s to 1960s, she moved from place to place to pursue her singing and dancing career, where she eventually moved to Harlem and joined the Harlem Writers Guild to take her writing more seriously. After traveling to Africa and serving as editor and writer in Egypt and Ghana, she began to help Malcolm X build an organization of African American unity. In 1969, she wrote an autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which chronicled her adventurous life and captured a poetic narrative. The poem Cage Bird by Maya Angelou, published in 1983, highlights the lives and makes clear the differences between a bird that is caged and a bird that is free. Specifically, the free bird can do whatever it pleases as it can fly anywhere. On the other hand, although the caged bird is still a bird, like its free counterpart, it lives a completely different life. The caged bird's life is full of depression and questions of what it would be like to be free, as it's limited to the space in his cage and singing with a fearful trill of things unknown. Maya Angelou's intent with this poem was to highlight the African American experience. In this case, African Americans are limited freedom because of their skin color and are only able to wonder what the privileged life of the free bird is like. Although the free bird is able to do what the cage bird can and then some, the free bird is never depicted to do the one thing that the cage bird does, sing. This is a metaphor showing that the one thing that African Americans have to use to fight for the true freedom is their voice. In addition, it highlights the idea of freedom and how, similar to other basic rights, it's never thought about until it's lost. The free bird thinks about his dreams and aspirations, but never about how lucky it is to be free. On the contrary, the cage bird's thoughts are consumed by thoughts of freedom.
The poem has 6 stanzas and is written in free verse. This means that there is no single rhyme scheme or meter throughout the poem. However, Angelou does employ an iambic meter throughout the poem, creating a more musical flow. The author also uses rhyme to accomplish this effect, such as in the 3rd verse. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The rhyming is used here as a way to emphasize certain ideas. The word freedom not rhyming makes it stick out more, and in doing so places more emphasis on it. This concept can similarly be applied to the word sings and unknown. Separating stanzas are 2 tones, the 1st and 4th stanza depicting joy, and the rest showing a somber tone. Likewise, the 1st and 4th stanzas depict the life of a free bird, while the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th stanzas are about the perspective of the caged bird. Angelou commonly utilizes figurative language throughout the poem. First, the entire poem is a metaphor for the African American community's past and the ongoing struggle against racial oppression in the United States. The metaphor captures the struggles and agony of the caged bird and relates that emotional suffering to the marginalized communities in America. In addition, the singing of the caged bird can be interpreted as a metaphor for African American spirituals. Imagery is used in order to enhance the impact of the poem's theme and tone. The phrase, "His tune is heard on the distant hill," helps the reader understand that although the bird cannot move, its song can reach an impressive distance. When relating this to the metaphor of the African American experience, This imagery would help the reader understand that, although they may only fight for their freedom with their voices, their impacts can still reach far. Symbolism is also ever present in this poem. The cage can represent the historical oppression that the African American community has faced, and more literally can represent the enslavement of Africans during the 1800s. The free bird and the caged bird also represent the oppressed and the oppressors, respectively. The caged bird, looking through bars of rage, represents both the emotional and psychological oppression that people of color have faced. Finally, the music and song that the caged bird sings symbolizes African American culture and emotions. Because the narrative compares the two birds and their different lives, juxtaposition is also present in this poem. The caged bird is depicted to be sad and depressed, while in contrast, the free bird is vivacious and joyous. Angelou also uses repetition to place emphasis on certain ideas. The biggest example of this is how the sixth stanza is a direct copy of the third stanza. Similar to a chorus of a song, Angelou is able to place emphasis on these 8 lines because of their importance to the overall message of the poem. These literary devices all help contribute to the overall tone and meaning that the author seeks to express. With this, readers are able to empathize with historically oppressed groups and understand the feelings that Angelou tries to convey in her